To be recording our council meeting, 28th of October, and we note that the meeting is being recorded. And first of all, we'll move on to our apologies and leave of absence. And we do have an apology this evening from Mayor Freshney. No, do we have any other apologies?
Councillor
Okay, my goodness, yes. And an apology from Councillor Fiddler. We need to move. Accept those apologies. Thank you, Councillor Wicks and Councillor Sims. All those in favour? It is passed. Thank you. Item 2 is declarations of pecuniary and conflicts of interest. If anybody has any pecuniary conflicts of interest, I note that you would have advised Tanya and leave the meeting if that's appropriate later on. Thank you. Item 3 is confirmation of the minutes of the meeting held on the 12th of August. Is that right? I'll turn to the wrong page. In September, do we have a mover for that? Sims? And a seconder? Not it already. Councillor Wicks and a seconder?
Councillor Martin.
Councillor Martin, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Motion's carried, thank you. So, we're moving on to questions on notice. We don't have anybody this evening? No. So that being the case, we have to accept the questions as responded, don't we? So item 7 is response to questions raised at the prior ordinary council meeting. And we have those responses there. And the recommendation is that the responses to the questions from Roxley Felmingham and Cush Allison at the council meeting held on the 23rd of September 2024 be received and noted. Do we have somebody move that motion? Thank you, Councillor Sims. And a seconder? Councillor Martin. All those in favour?
Aye.
Motion's carried. Thank you. And that's where I jumped over to item 9, which we don't have anybody to talk to us this evening. So we'll move on to item 10, which is the Planning Authority. And in accordance with clause 25(1) of the Local Government Meeting Procedure Regulations of 2015, the chairman advised that council will now act as a planning authority. And item 10.1 is our development application for 161 Moreland Beach Road, Wesley Vale. Can we have somebody move that motion, please? Councillor Sims and seconder, Councillor Martin. Councillor Sims.
I'll ask our planning officer, Carla, to give us a report. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and councillors. Today we have an application for 161 Moreland Beach, Wesley Vale for a motor racing facility, which is proposing 2 storage sheds. So that's the subject site there. That's relatively recent imagery, and you can see the large track and smaller track and the shed development at the northwest corner there. So as part of the application, we're looking to do 2 new sheds in a capital L formation at the top left corner there, which is near the existing shed development on the site. We just got the floor plan of the shed. Both are relatively small, the 8 by 4 meters, both of the exact same measurements. The reason why this is a discretionary use is that it is associated with a prohibited use under the agricultural zone, and they are proposing changes to that existing non-conforming use. So some of the issues raised within that within the representation are the type of business conducted on the site, which council would have no records that it's operating differently, and that it is, you know, for, sorry, let's get my here. Yeah, to teach just disadvantaged children between ages 6 to 16. Another concern was whether or not the application fit within the original purpose, which again, council has no evidence to demonstrate that it's operating otherwise, and that no racing has occurred. And my understanding of that is that he's still getting ready to get the facility up to the point where they can start to do races on the site. The shed should be painted green was another one, which they're proposed to be in eucalypt green. So, and is there a limit to the amount of shipping containers? And those shipping containers should be painted green. Being prohibited use on the site, any development will need approval. And however, they aren't subject to this application anyway. And then there was also concerns regarding the trees that are being planted on the site and that they're growing very well. The owner has advised that he has spent a bit of money on the trees and he is trying to get them up and going. However, due to the conditions of the soil and that sort of thing, it is difficult to get them kind of established. So, yeah, is there any questions regarding this application?
Councillor Sims.
So I'm quite satisfied with the recommendation that you put forward in the endorsed plans.
Yep.
It's a wonderful venture.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
No, I had nothing further. Thank you.
All right. Questions around the room. Councillor Metzger.
Was there any application, like a application or was there any plumbing or anything included in the application for to be included in the sheds?
It wasn't a requirement for planning. I believe that it has been conditioned for storage purposes only. So there shouldn't be any sort of facilities or anything like that within those buildings.
Yeah.
I do believe that there is a toilet on the site which does have an existing wastewater system. So yeah, I don't believe there's going to be any sort of facilities located within those sheds.
Yeah. Okay. And power? They're obviously allowed to have power to the sheds.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, around the room. Certainly do note, and you did respond to the queries around the tree plantings, which apparently are growing very well on one aspect, on the western aspect, but not on the eastern.
I'm not sure as to why that is, but on site I can say that they are trying to do regular maintenance of that vegetation belt, and he has advised that, you know, he's asked people about what sort of trees and that sort of thing should be planted on the site. They recommended them to him, and he's trying to, he is actively trying to plant and maintain those, but I haven't conditioned it on there as well, just to make sure that is the case.
Yeah, thank you. And also note the questions around the containers, and are we making an assumption the containers are being used for temporary storage and that'll be adjusted with the new builds?
Yeah, well, I guess, if they are used for storage, and if it is for the storage of bike, you would assume that they would be relocated after that.
Yeah.
If they are going to be temporarily on the site, it'll need to be looked at, but.
All right, thank you. And if we recall the initial, and I know it's not relevant to this, but it was a noise reducing venture as well when they first put the permit in place. So a lot of those aspects we've dealt with previously, and this is just to cover the two additions of the 8x4 sheds. So if we don't have any other questions, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Anybody against? That motion is carried, and thank you very much, Caleb, for presenting that to us today. All right, so then we move on to item 10.9, that the council cease to act as a planning authority. Can we have somebody move that, please? Councillor Metzger and a seconder. Councillor Wicks. All those in favour? Any against? That motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 11, Development and Regulatory Service Department. 11.1 is the naming of a new road created by 8-lot subdivision of Cotton Street in Latrobe. Can somebody move that motion, please? Councillor Metzger and seconder. Councillor Wicks. Councillor Metzger.
I'll just throw to whoever's speaking to that. Jan?
We've got Jan, our Manager of Development and Regulatively, can't say that word, Jan, Services. Thank you.
Through the chair, our statutory planner Troy McCarthy has authored this report. So as you have determined, the small section of new roadway between Cotton and Alberta Streets requires a name, and Troy has suggested 3 names that do meet the requirements of Place Names Tasmania. So it's up to councillors to determine whether they would like any of those 3 names suggested, or failing that, it would have to be another name that met the requirements of the Place Name guidelines, which is becoming more difficult as we progress it and have new streets to name.
Thank you. Councillor Metzger.
I don't know how we're going to go about this, but I suppose if we just talk about what our preference is, I suppose, and I don't know, come to a conclusion. Anyway, the 3 ones that Troy's recommended, I would go with, Park Nook, only because the other 2, I feel I hate having to spell things out for people. And when people say, oh, where do you live? And you say, Peacecape. And then you're like, P-A-C. Whereas Park Nook is, well, yes, but it is easy to say, easy to spell for people who are going to live there. That's my argument.
All right. And the seconder was...
Second, I support that part.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay. So no other comment, Councillor Wicks? No? Around the room.
I'm very happy with that.
I like Gentlebrook. That sounds lovely. I'd like to live there. I do like the sound of it. I just think you'd have to spell it. Yeah, well, you'd have to Park Nook. What's that even mean?
So, Councillor Martin, do you have other comments and other recommendations that you'd like to?
I'll put forward that Gentlebrook would be my preference.
All right. And looking around the room for further comment. Okay. Well, my comment is slightly ironic because I went for the one that nobody's yet mentioned. I'll put it to our General Manager to, is there any comment that you'd like to make around this item?
No. Sorry. Not confuse matters anymore. Do we need a vote? Is that we're looking to have resolutions?
I think that we will, unless somebody really wants to move it out and discuss it further or propose another name. I do just want to mention to take particular attention to that it's either a close or a place, depending on which name you chose as well. And Councillor Wicks, did you have something else that you wanted? Oh, Councillor Simms, anything else that you wanted to say?
No, I'm quite happy with Park Nook.
Okay. Well,
I can tell you what he said then.
with that, if there's no further discussion, Councillor Metzger did put the motion with which one? Park Nook Close as your recommendation. So the recommendation is that the report by the planning officer concerning naming the new road created by 8-lot subdivision off Cotton Street, Latrobe be received, and council name the new road Park Nook Close. All those in favour?
Aye.
Raise your hands, please. Any against? That motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 11.2, Building Department report from September 2024. Do we have somebody move that motion, please?
Yes, I'll second.
Councillor Metzger, seconded by Councillor Simms. Councillor Metzger.
We go to Manager of Development and Regulatory Services.
Do you have any additional comments?
Not really, through the chair. the number of applications is 29, totaling just over $7 million. So the breakdown of those applications is there in your report for your information.
Thank you. And the seconder was Councillor Sims.
No, happy with that. It's just rolling along. The development, so.
Thank you. Any other comments around the room? No. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
No.
Any against? That motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 11.3. I haven't skipped one there, have I? No. Planning development application status report for September. The recommendation is that the status report of the development application for the month of September be received. We have somebody move that, please.
Happy to move that.
Councillor Sims, and a seconder, Councillor Metzger. Councillor Sims.
No comment. Happy to receive it.
Councillor Metzger.
Yeah, no, looks good.
Any comments around the room? All those in favour? Any against? That motion is carried. Thank you. Right, moving on to item 12, Office of the General Manager. So we have the Code of Conduct that's been prepared by Sarah, and the motion is that the report by the Executive Assistant concerning the Code of Conduct be received, and Council note the commencement of the new Code of Conduct Order 2024 that replaces the existing Model Code of Conduct that came into effect on the 10th of December 2024. Can we have somebody move that motion, please?
Yeah, I'll move it.
Councillor Sims, and seconder, Councillor Wicks. Councillor Sims.
I'll just ask the General Manager who'd like to comment on that. Thank you.
Yes, so no option but to approve this one, and we had our workshop on those 5 improvement areas which are outlined there. So yeah, nothing further really to add. We've provided some feedback, as did a number of councillors during the consultation process.
Thank you. No other comment? No. Councillor Wicks? No. Do we have any comments or questions around the room?
When you gave your feedback, Darcy, did you get any response? Did they take any of your feedback on board, or?
It was pretty general feedback. Wasn't any specific changes, just comments more generally. But yeah, look, yes, it would have been a fair bit of feedback going through on this one. Specific back from them. Sorry, to answer your question.
Thank you.
Right. Put the motion. All those in favour? Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you. So item 12.2 flows on from this one, which is the Public Interest Disclosure Policy and Model Procedures Review. Can we have a mover for that, please? I've got 3. Councillor Metzger, and seconded by Councillor Brown. Councillor Metzger.
I've got nothing further to add unless the General Manager has anything to add on this one either. Is this another, we just have to accept it and move on?
Yeah, the Ombudsman asked for our policy just so they could have a look and make sure that we were compliant. There was a few items in there that they came back with recommendations to update. We've done that and presenting those amendments for Council to review and endorse. It's more a compliance matter than anything.
Councillor Brown. No further comment. Anybody around the room? It was well tracked where the changes were made were throughout the document, and they were only minor.
Yes.
So it was first implemented, I think, in 2021. So with that, I will put the motion. All those in favour? Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you. Item 12.3, the updated instrument of delegations. Is somebody happy to move that motion, please?
Yeah.
And is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Metzger and Councillor Martin. Thank you. Councillor Metzger.
Yeah, again, it was easy to see what had changed. It really only is about an additional delegation that you have around plant complaints. Enjoy that. Fun.
Nothing. No, thank you.
Any other comments around the room? No. If we just note the recommendation, there are motion 1, motion 2 and motion 3. If you're happy, we will vote to endorse all 3 motions in the one. Yeah. All right. All those in favour of those 3 motions? Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you. Checking them up to that. So 12.4, which is the 2024-2025 Latrobe Council Annual Plan, Quarter 1 Progress Update, so from July to September. We have somebody move that, please. Councillor Simms, and a seconder. Councillor Metzger. Councillor Simms.
I'd ask our Corporate and Business Service, Cameron, if you'd like to report on that, please.
Thank you, through the chair. So the annual plan this year includes some KPIs and measures. This is the first quarterly report against those measures. So it's the first time we've presented a document like this through to council. As you can see through it, there are a number of data areas that will build up and change over time. It's an opportunity for you to see our progress against the annual plan more regularly. So I present this report to you, and we'd be happy to take any feedback on it as well.
Thank you. You were the seconder? Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's a pretty in-depth report for a quarterly report. Good job. It was really good though. Very informative, and nice to get good feedback and get kept up to date with, I suppose, what we're doing financially, but also as far as our like structural and culture changes and things are going. So no, it's good. Well done.
Thank you. Around the room, any questions or comments? Councillor Wicks.
Councillor Metzger's comments entirely. Well done.
It's just good to see things being able to be measured. Everything's heading in the right direction. If you can't measure it, it doesn't really happen. So.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Any other discussion around the room? No. Thank you very much. It's really good to see a report like this, where we're starting to clearly articulate and measure our outcomes against our annual plan. And of course, now we're starting to see and be ready to ask questions, of which I won't. But there are some things that are highlighted there, of which we do and we'll have more questions around. So that's a really good outcome from councillors' perspective as well. So thank you for all the work that's going into this new report, and look forward to seeing it develop over a period of time. All right. All those in favour of accepting the report? Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you. And moving on to item 13, Corporate and Business Services Department. We've got 13.1, which is the councillor allowances and expenses for the quarter ended September 2024. And the recommendation is that the report for the acting team leader of finance, from the acting team leader of finance, concerning councillor allowances and expenses for the quarter ended September 2024 be received. Have we got somebody moving that motion, please?
Yep, happy to.
Councillor Wicks, seconder. Councillor Brown. Thank you. Councillor Wicks.
No comments, just we're down to do it, and it's there for transparency.
Thank you, Councillor Brown.
I rewarded Dublin.
Anybody want to add any further comments, particularly to Councillor Brown's comment? No. All right. All those in favour?
Aye.
Any against? That motion is carried. Thank you. And 13.2 is the finance report for September 2024. 24. And the recommendation is that the finance report for the period of September 24, as provided by the acting team leader of finance, be received. Somebody move that motion, please. Councillor Metzger, and a seconder. Councillor Plummer, thank you very much. Councillor Metzger.
Do we have Josh here, or are you? It's you, Cameron. Would you like to walk us through it?
With pleasure. The chair, page 4, some commentary around our operational variances, capital expenditure, rate collections, cash and investment. See further through the income statement, a number of these relate to timing, essentially. It's our first quarterly report. You may be interested in the capital works project update. The back of the report, which also includes some traffic lighting. So a colleague here can probably further illuminate you on any of those projects. And happy to take any particular questions.
Thank you, Cameron. Did you have any further item to discuss?
I do just have a question, Cameron. On page 6, the trade and other receivables between 24 and 25 and the previous financial years, there's quite a big difference. What exactly are the trade and other receivables? Like what falls under them? And is there any reason why there's quite a big difference in those two?
We're aware of that areas. We can drill down into that for you in terms of other receivables as an asset, that is money that's owed to us.
Yep.
Yes, maybe we should provide a more esteemed chartered accountant answer on that. We can certainly take that on note.
Yeah, it's on the
Page 6, balance sheet.
Okay.
under the balance sheet.
The 6,679,000 figure balance sheet.
The year-to-date actual 2024-25, is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, the fourth item from the top.
Yeah. I'll put that to you,
Yeah.
Manager. All right, if it's all right through, I will put that question to Jan.
It's due to the rates revenue, so that's all recognised as income at the date that they're levied, and the prior year actuals, the ending period for the end of the financial year. So we're only a quarter way through the year. So that's primarily what the major difference would be.
Yeah, okay, because it's obviously not as much has been paid as.
That's right.
Yeah, okay, makes sense.
Thank you. And note that through the report, it actually does talk about the proportion of rates that has been paid to date, which is a good percentage considering what time of year we're at, is my understanding.
Well, it's very similar to
Previous.
comparable time last year. So I think it was 0.1 or 0.2% difference.
Mm-hmm. There was. If we're happy with that response, you didn't have any more questions, I'll go to the seconder. That was you, Councillor Brown. Okay, around the room, do we have any other questions or queries? Yeah, I was going to make note of the rates and we've clarified that, which is good. Thank you. And we have the amount which the debtors ageing summary as well, which I assume takes into account the rates as well.
The $1 million, is that
correct?
That was actually a grant pending.
$1 million grant for Banksia, which is pending an audit before we can move from that.
Oh, okay. Do we have a date for the audit?
No, I can not off the top of my head.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see when that's scheduled. So if we don't have any other questions or queries, we'll put that motion. All those in favour? Anybody against?
Yes.
You didn't have any questions? The one about the, so you had the question about the debtors, which was the outstanding rates. So that's a note that you voted against that motion? Or was it a question? Oh, okay. All right. Thank you very much. That motion is carried. And you got that councillor?
Against, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So moving on to item 16.1, which is council workshops. And we have the workshops noted there, and the recommendation is that the information on topics discussed at the 23rd of September and at the 14th of October 2024 council workshops be received. Do we have somebody to move that motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Sims, and seconded Councillor Metzger. Any discussion?
Straightforward.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Any against? The motion is carried. Thank you. 16.2 is our delegates report. And the recommendation is that the report be received and noted. Can we have someone move that, please? Councillor Brown, and a seconder. Councillor Martin. Any discussion?
Maybe pretty good job there. Fair view there.
Thank you. Put the motion. All those in favour? Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you. So council decision status report for September 2024, and the recommendation is that the September 24 status report of the open council meeting be received. Can we have somebody move that, please? Councillor Metzger, and a seconder.
Yes, sir.
Councillor Martin. Councillor Metzger.
I don't think I had any questions. I don't know anyway. Just in case you're going to ask.
There's still a number of items. Anybody else want to discuss any items in that report? A number of open items that we have there, and there's just a couple I wanted to mention. We have the one that is our Fairway Crescent Shearwater still sitting as an open item. We have that waiting on our open space strategy, so we look forward to discussing that further later on this year. And the other one was relevant to the Axeman's Hall of Fame. Item 17.4 I have written, which is on page 185, and it talks to water damage at the Axeman's Hall of Fame. And I was just curious if there's been any work undertaken to determine if we have an issue in that area. Have we got an update on that at all?
Through the chair, yes, the building was inspected by a new
Buildings and Facilities Project Officer. They've got a background in projects like that. So, yeah, rather than get somebody independent in, make them familiar with the facility, and also to have a look and provide a report back to that. And that went to the most recent committee meeting down there. A number of recommendations were set there and endorsed. At gutter guards, and there's a tree on the front corner that's leaves getting into the gutter quite regularly, and other monitoring and monitoring as well.
Okay. So hopefully we're getting on top of that and reducing the risk of having anything damage the interior and our historical collection within. Good news. Thank you very much. So if we don't have any other questions on that, put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Any against? That motion is carried. Next item is item 16, which is the Port Sorell Community Information Evening of October 10, 2024. Can we have somebody move that motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Sims, and somebody second? Councillor Metzger. Thank you. Councillor Sims.
Yeah, I'm slightly disappointed with the less amount of people that turned up to it out of the population of over 4,500 people. They got 30 from the public there. I thought it was a bit disappointing, although they were very pleased with what council were doing.
Thank you. Councillor Metzger.
Yeah, it was a smaller group than we have probably used to out there, but yeah, I think there was some constructive feedback given, and generally everyone's happy with how council's performing out there. So yeah.
Any other discussion around the room? I thought it was a good meeting, and I understand Councillor Simms about your comments, and I do believe we had an issue with regard to the sign that would normally advertise that the meeting was on. So that may have had some influence on the amount of people that were able or knew that it was on and were able to attend. But overall, I think it was a good meeting, and I wanted to thank all the staff that came along and also provided input through that meeting. I don't know that there were many actions that came out of it, but it was a really good opportunity to provide feedback.
Yeah, some great conversations, some good questions about some of the local concerns, which is always good to get some insight on, and for us to be able to take those forward and respond accordingly. So yeah, small numbers sometimes are good. It facilitates a bit more opportunity for people to engage, and I know there's some good conversation before and some good conversation after. So I think that's the major and important point.
I think most importantly, it was a relaxed environment where people did feel comfortable to speak, and also they remained for a little while afterwards, which is always a good sign. So I think the biggest topic of the conversation was probably the roundabout, which will have a lot of impact on the whole community when we're going through that construction project, John. But yeah, good meeting. So thank you to all those that did attend. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Anybody against? That motion is carried. Mr. Page, so the next item is the, let's see. Oh gosh, I nearly missed the tree planting committee, sorry. 17.1, the Latrobe Tree Planting Committee of October 15, 2024. Can I have somebody move that motion, please? Councillor Martin, and a seconder, Councillor Metzger. Councillor Martin.
No, nothing further to add, only that it was a quick and efficient meeting. We got through in about 23 minutes or something like that, but there was some pretty firm views on where to go and what to do next, and some outward corro needs to be done regarding tree planting area near the roundabout, and what we're going to do with the other entrance to Latrobe from the western side. So look forward to seeing some outcomes from that.
Councillor Metzger.
Other than the recommendations that we've got there about the significant tree register and our changing meeting dates, I wasn't at the meeting, but I know that Franklin Court, the long-awaited Franklin Court, will be planted this coming season, which we met with a couple of the residents on site a couple of days after the meeting, and they're very excited about that finally coming to fruition. So yeah,
yes,
it's good collaboration between council and the residents, and they're really happy with what we've put forward, and yeah, be well received, I think.
Very good. Any other questions or comments around the room? We note that the recommendation is that the minutes of the Tree Planting Committee meeting be received, and that the following recommendations are endorsed, which is, as mentioned, the significant tree register. So council investigates further the protection of significant trees in the municipality under the planning scheme and advise the committee of process and potential costs. And 2, future meeting dates and frequency. Recommend to endorse that the terms of reference be amended from as and when required to as and when required, but at least twice annually. I think that's important to note that. So we have the attachments there, and with that we'll put the motion. All those in favour? Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have 17.2, which is the Latrobe and District Youth Centre Committee Management Committee meeting of 16th of October, and the recommendation is that they be received. Can we have somebody move that motion, please? Councillor Brown, and a seconder.
I'll second.
Councillor Simms, thank you. Councillor Brown.
If you've already missed, if there's any questions you've got, I can try and get through them, or we'll find out for you. It's pretty straightforward. It's going on, it's a pretty good meeting. We, at one time there, we decided we might join the youth centre and the football reclamation ground committee together, because there's only very few attending each meeting. Right. But all of a sudden, when you look through how many people and how many different people use the youth centre, how many people use the football ground facilities and the cricket club and that there, well, there's no way knowing we're going to have one committee. There had to be two, otherwise you'd be there all might be too big. So we've still decided to leave them as two committees.
Good.
But if there's anything there you'd like to ask me any questions on, feel free.
Thank you. Give a seconder, Councillor Simms. Any other questions or queries around the room? Right. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Any against? That motion is carried. 17.3, the Banksia Facilities Management Committee meeting of October 16, 2024. And we note the recommendations here. So, one, that the unconfirmed minutes of the Banksia Facility Management Committee meeting held on the 16th of October 24 be received, and the following recommendations be endorsed. Item 1 is approve the winding up of the Banksia Facility Management Committee, acknowledging the successful completion of its objectives. And 2, a formal statement of appreciation be issued to all committee members, recognising their dedication, their hard work and contribution to the committee's success. We have someone move that motion, please.
I'm happy to move that motion.
Councillor Simms, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Border, thank you. Councillor Simms.
It's one of those long-standing committees that's been going for some time. There was a committee for the campsite, and then when the new construction of the Banksia Centre itself. In 2018, they decided to join those two committees together to become one. And in the process of the new redevelopment out there took place, and on completion of that, it's basically become an information meeting, and therefore it's just organisational now. So, and the committee agreed that we wound it up and unanimously endorsed. So yeah, that's the recommendation. I just want to ask Cameron, our business manager, have you got any comment on that?
Thank you. Attending the last meeting, as we said, we've got operational staff dedicated out there to take concerns from community, and the lion's share of the work has been overseeing the redevelopment. We've now finalised that. It's a very natural time to have the conversation about what the community is doing.
Thank you. Councillor Border.
Yeah, I think we had some community members who were very concerned that the committee is going because they're not there and raise their issues when things are wrong. So as long as we can provide that they get heard when they have an issue, I think we're right that committee, yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions around the room? Councillor Metzger.
So was there any of the old cabins still on site?
Yeah, they are.
They are.
Yeah.
They're blocked up, it's all covered up.
Okay, so they're not being used. None of the old ones are being used.
Through the chair.
Thank you.
Not suitable to be used because of some asbestos contamination in them and that sort of thing. So I don't think it's really been decided what we're going to do with it.
Well, there is some interest that somebody wants to use it as storage, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll do, that's being handled, through another process. But there certainly there are
storage or anything like that. So.
Yeah, because I know, I'm just asking because when I was on the committee, the initial plan was to have 4, I think, of those pods, but obviously budget constraints limited that. So I was just wondering if that was is that still the eventual plan, or are we just parking that until demand kind of?
okay. I'll look to General Manager to provide a response.
It was part of that priority projects document that we continue to look to attract funding to support that next phase.
Yeah.
But short of that, we haven't reserved any funding as part of our program. So I guess in answer to that, it would be success of external funding at this stage unless a decision is made otherwise.
And so with this committee, if say we did come across some funding to continue the development of the local, the rest of the camp, would the committee be reformed, or would you start a new committee, or would it just be like managed by council?
Oh, I don't think it's necessary to do that.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm hearing that you're just checking on whether we're likely to go ahead with another stage around the long-term plan for additional cabins, and it's relevant to funding, and also no doubt occupancy and use on site and whatnot. So I would imagine if that comes up with us closing the committee, that it'll be handled through staff and through a capital works project. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we'll still look to monitor occupancy and demand and supply parameters over there. Equally, as we make our way through our long-term plan, we can understand the appetite to invest more in that particular space.
Does anybody else want to talk to the motion? No. I think that's an interesting discussion, Councillor Metzger, and also there is some interesting data within the report, so thank you for those that put the report together. I am curious if there's a likelihood of a biannual or twice yearly report put to council to give us an understanding as to how the development itself is progressing. If we close this committee, I think that's reasonable. What else is council going to receive to understand how the business part of the project is progressing? So should I ask that through you, or?
Well, we can take it on notice and come back with some thoughts around how it can maintain transparency.
Thank you.
The chair was discussing with the manager out there that she put in a report, probably quarterly report to come to council so we can monitor and see how things are going. So if you are well aware of that, to report to council.
All right. Pleased to hear that. Thank you. And also just wanted to make note how great it is that Port Sorell Primary School are using the facility well now. So that's a really good outcome. If we don't have any further questions or queries, we'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anybody against? That motion is carried. And moving on to item 17.4, the Latrobe Council Audit Panel meeting held on the 30th of September. Can we have someone move that motion, please? Councillor Martin, and a seconder. Councillor Metzger. Councillor Martin.
It was our first meeting with the new chair and it was terrific. I felt very confident at the conclusion of the meeting with the new format and I would say a more consultative conversation and a more detailed balcony look at what's going on. Cameron, do you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Through the chair, if I may, the next meeting is just around the corner on the 18th of November. It'll be first time we're running the meeting through Docs on Tap. So it's one of the improvement initiatives that's been supported. So all those papers will be issued just like any other committee. So we're really excited to have that in place as well.
Thank you. Very good. Councillor Metzger.
No, I've got it.
Any other questions or queries around the room? No? With that, we'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you. And we'll move on to item 17.5, which is the Kentish and Latrobe Council's joint audit panel meeting held on the 30th of September. And there is a recommendation that has 3 items. So one is to receive the minutes, and then we go on to receive and the following recommendations endorsed. Item number 1 is the Council Code of Conduct and Staff Code of Conduct be reviewed together to ensure they are consistent. Item number 2, a request for quote process be conducted regarding an internal audit engagement to review payroll compliance with the enterprise agreement and other industrial instruments. And item 3, a future follow-up procurement for development and delivery of a strategic internal audit cycle, prioritised based on assessment. Can I have somebody move that motion, please? Councillor Martin and seconder. Councillor Metzger, sorry, Councillor Sims. Councillor Martin.
No, nothing further to add, only that it's pretty straightforward on what needs to be required and some consistency across the board and to reduce our risk where possible.
Councillor Metzger.
I think it's good to see that there's things that the staff can be doing across both councils to make their life easier rather than having to do one for us and one for the Sheffield.
Agreed. Any other comments around the room? No. We'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you. And with that, unless there is any urgent business we don't know about, we move to item 20, which is our closed meeting. Moved by Councillor Wicks and seconded by Councillor Martin. Thank you. So normally we'll have a little break before we go to closed meeting.
So did everybody carry? Is that carried?
We didn't move.
Oh, all right. Sorry, my apologies. I've moved on. All those in favour?
Aye.
Is there anybody against? Aye, that motion's carried. Thank you, Tanya.
Well done, Chair.
It's just